Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you watched my previous video, I talked about sugar and fruit, why it doesn't make you fat, and I realized after I made this video that maybe there's some people out there that don't actually know what a carbohydrate is, which was kind of the focus of the video. So I want to take the time to make another video just briefly explaining what a carb is, what's made up of, its metabolism, and why it is important for the body. So to begin with, a carb is any sort of sugar, starch, or fiber that you eat. It's 4 kilocalories per gram and is made up of a carbon atom, a hydrogen atom, and an oxygen atom. Not one of each, but those 3 specific ones. And then they're broken down into different groups of carbohydrates. So to begin with, you have the building block of carbohydrates, which is the monosaccharide. If you're familiar with like protein, a monosaccharide is the equivalent of an amino acid. That helps give you a better idea of its role. So a monosaccharide, it has 3 types of sugar in it, only 3. So first you have glucose, and glucose is more commonly known as blood sugar. It's what your body uses for energy. So that's where it's most common, is in your blood. And then the next one is fructose, which I briefly mentioned in my last video, and that's obviously in sugar. And the third one is galactose, and this is a sugar that's found in milk. So all of these are the most basic and quick absorbing types of sugar that you're going to see commonly in your diet. So going on from there is the disaccharide. Di meaning 2, so it's 2 monosaccharides that have been chemically bonded together to make a new molecule. And in the disaccharide group there are 2 main types of sugar. The first one is sucrose, and sucrose, if you're unaware, is your common table sugar, what you use to cook with. Maybe you put it in your coffee, I don't know. But that is a combination of glucose and fructose. So those 2 molecules put together equal sucrose. And then the other one is lactose, which a lot of people have probably heard of. It's in milk, and it's a combination of glucose and the galactose molecule to make that lactose sugar. And then next would be a polysaccharide. Poly means many, so basically it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a bunch of sugar molecules chemically bonded together to make a very long string of molecules, or a complex carb. So these are going to be like your starches and fiber. So in terms of fiber, there's 2 types of fiber. There's soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. The soluble fiber is also known as alpha glucose, and this can be broken down in water, hence the soluble. And then the insoluble fiber is known as beta glucose, and this cannot be absorbed into water. So what that means for your body is your body can't break it down. And that's actually a good thing, because having this type of fiber, both types of fiber, in your diet is really important for your intestinal health. It helps the digestive system keep moving at a good pace. And so a lot of people actually don't eat enough fiber. I think the average daily intake is maybe around 13 grams off the top of my head. But it's too low. So if you're not eating enough fiber, I really encourage you to please try and up your intake. It's good for your body. You can get it in plant sources, so vegetables, fruits. Once again, white fruits are great. So if you're not doing that, you might want to kind of take a look at that. Okay, so moving on, I want to talk about metabolism of carbs, because this is why carbs are important, because to be metabolized and used for energy. So the metabolizing of carbs actually starts in your mouth. With mastication, which is the act of chewing your food. So you should chew well. And also salivary amylase, which is an enzyme that starts the breakdown of these carbohydrates. So when you chew your food, you're actually breaking down these long strings of carbohydrates into like more manageable pieces. so it's easier to be broken down later. This is why chewing your food is really important, chewing it well, because it's easier on your body to actually break down these molecules later down in the digestive tract. So it starts in the mouth and then moves to the stomach, and the stomach does its thing there, does some other metabolizing of other types of macronutrients, moves out of the stomach and into the small intestine. And the small intestine is really where the majority of the metabolism is going to initially take place in terms of that initial metabolism of the food. And here, the body will automatically be able to absorb all the monosaccharides. So any glucose or fructose that you have, mainly the fructose, your body it's able to pass through the linings of the small intestine into your bloodstream and be used for energy. So I know, just kind of a case where this is important to know, when I was having a conversation with someone about the whole apple thing, I kind of started the conversation, and he's like, with people saying that apples make you fat, and his first response was, oh, because they have so much sugar, which is the whole point to my previous video, is this misconception. However, because when he was at a point where he wasn't eating a lot of fruit, or probably a lot of carbohydrates in general, which a lot of people do, especially when they're training for shows, they think it's a good way to drop weight, but anyways, so he would do that, and he would eat an apple, and it would instantly give him a headache, and he thought it was because of the amount of sugar, when in reality it's because of the type of sugar. Because it's that fructose, if your body is not used to it, then you could have some uncommon effects or side effects when eating it again for the first time. So it's like a sugar rush, he just absorbed it really quickly because it's a monosaccharide and got a headache from it. But if you have anything that's above a monosaccharide, which is going to be probably the majority of your carbs, so the disaccharides and the polysaccharides, those are going to have to be broken down into monosaccharides. And that process is actually called glucoside hydrolase, the process of breaking down those bonds into monosaccharides. Okay, so from here, once the glucose is broken down in the body, we move on to its utilization within the body. And there's a couple different things a couple different places where glucose goes. So your homeostatic blood glucose level, so the level that your body wants to maintain in your blood at all times, is 20 grams in the blood. So if you have more than that or less than that, your body is going to use different hormones to help regulate that. Those hormones, the three main hormones that are used in the body in relation to glucose are insulin, which you probably have all heard of in relation to diabetics, and then glucagon, and actually epinephrine as well. So insulin helps facilitate the glucose going through that cell membrane into the cell to actually be used for energy. So this is why it's a really important hormone to have, and then people with diabetes, either kind, the type 1 diabetes, your body doesn't produce enough insulin. Type 2 diabetes, which is usually later in life, more commonly, is an insulin resistance. So your body makes insulin, but it's not utilizing it correctly. But so that's what the insulin does. And then glucagon is another hormone that will break down the glycogen that's stored in your liver, which we'll get to in just a second, to help bring those levels back up. So these two hormones work together to keep homeostasis. So if there's too much blood sugar, insulin will kick in and give some of that sugar to your cells, and then when it drops too low, glucagon will kick in and break down some glycogen and put some more in, so you can keep that balance. And then epinephrine is similar to glucagon in that it's a catabolic and or catabolic hormone for glucose, so it also breaks glucose down. So back to the liver. Okay, so I know most people probably know that you have liver stores of glycogen, and the source of glycogen in your body, or in your liver, excuse me, is used to supply the rest of your body. However, the liver can only maintain or only holds 80 to 100 grams of glucose. Other than the liver, your muscles also actually keep a storage of glycogen that they use, and that glycogen is used only for your muscles. So liver supplies your whole body, and then the muscles just supply themselves. And the muscles hold a lot more in comparison to the liver. They actually hold 300 to 600 grams. That's depending on your muscle mass, so if you have more, you could potentially be holding more. Which makes sense because you need more energy for your larger muscles, so just it adapts as you grow. And then anything above that, so let's say your blood glucose is good, your muscle glucose or glycogen is good, and and your liver glycogen is all full, then you're in a surplus. And that's when your body will take that glucose and store it as fat, which is not what anybody wants. So it does have the potential to be stored as fat. However, there are other areas that has to be used first prior to this happening. So now that you're kind of aware of the metabolism of the glucose and then where your body keeps it, I want to talk about why we need it in the body. So there's different things that are dependent upon glucose. Your brain actually is one of the biggest and main things that relies on glucose for energy. So, carbs are helping your brain function, which in and of itself should make carbs important enough to eat and not avoid. But past that, it's also used in cellular respiration for ATP. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate, and that is it's a pathway used to help create energy in your actual cells. So how does this work? Okay, so glycolysis is the splitting of a glucose molecule into pyruvic acid and lactic acid. So it'll take that molecule and split the two. And then that pyruvic acid or pyruvate, it'll combine with ADP. So in the process of ATP releasing energy, it loses a phosphate group and becomes ADP, which is adenosine diphosphate, so 2, when it actually needs 3. So that'll combine back with that ADP, and it'll actually create a new molecule of ATP. So this is really important for people, especially in anaerobic exercise, because this is not an aerobic pathway. This is an anaerobic pathway. So if you're doing any sort of anaerobic exercises, most commonly like weightlifting, having enough glucose in your body is going to help you maintain your energies while you're lifting. And you can notice that when people start working out and they go on really low carbohydrate diets, they're very lethargic and sluggish, and they lose a lot of energy. So it's really your body's preferred method, and very important to make sure you're intaking enough carbohydrates. And then lastly, in times of low carbs, so ketosis diets, where people want to burn fat, so they don't eat any carbs, they just eat a bunch of fat and protein. Well, there's two things that occur. First, your body can actually put the lactate and the pyruvic acid back together to create a glucose molecule again, which is glycogenesis, that whole process. And then another process is very similar to this, is called gluconeogenesis. And this is when your body will actually take the glycerol part of a fatty acid and also some amino acids from protein, and it can combine these to also create glucose. Gluconeogenesis is just basically the term for when your body makes glucose out of things that are not sugar. It can also do this with a couple other things as well. But, oh, excuse me, the lactate and the pyruvic acid is also gluconeogenesis because those are not sugar, those aren't sugar. So lactate, pyruvic acid, glycerol from fat, protein, all gluconeogenesis. And then the glycogenesis is making glycogen from glucose, which is how your body stores it in your liver. So it's kind of, that was just a quick rundown of carbs. I hope it made sense. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll do my best to find out the answers for you. But I hope it helped increase your understanding of carbs and made you hopefully not so scared of them and realize they're a very important part of our diet. And hopefully you're eating enough of them. So thank you. Stay tuned to my channel for more videos and have a great day.